Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel Case 23, where we decode forensic science in the most easiest way. So today in this video, we'll be discussing a sub-part of question document analysis, that is handwriting analysis, and especially we'll go through the class and individual characteristics of handwriting. And don't worry, to all the non-forensic viewers out there, I'll be explaining everything in a simple and friendly way so that even if you are not from forensics background, you'll get the full picture. So as always, let me take you through the table of contents. It is the topics we'll be discussing in this video. So first, a quick introduction to what handwriting analysis is all about. Then we will understand the difference between class and individual characteristics. What are those? And how are they relevant in forensic science? Then we will take a closer look at class characteristics. And after that, similar to class characteristics, we'll explore individual characteristics of handwriting. And then I will show you some interesting examples of individual traits. Then we'll talk about subconscious quirks. Those are like little habits you don't even realize you have. Yeah, you have those subconscious quirks. I'll explain those in details. And then comes the big question. Why is this relevant in forensic science? I mean, the class characteristics and the individual characteristics. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with a quick conclusion. And let me tell you, there's a little surprise at the end of this video. So stay tuned. Well then, let's start with the basics, that is introduction. Before beginning, let me ask you a simple question. Have you ever thought how personal your handwriting really is? I mean, how different your handwriting is from your friend, or from your parents or siblings or any other individual. Well, handwriting is more than just words on paper. It is actually a personal and unique pattern that develops over time through our motor skills, our habits, and even the way we are taught to write in school. So in forensic science, handwriting plays a very important role. And how is that? It is like forensic experts use the handwriting to examine question documents. Now, question documents is the topic that I have explained in the previous videos. You can go through that videos to understand what question document is. Also, I've discussed many types of question document, how question documents can be analyzed and all. Coming back to our topic, now questions document could be anything from a sign check, a will, a threatening note, or even a suicide letter. Now, the goal is to find out if the handwriting is genuine or if it has been forged. So in many cases, it can even help identify who wrote it. So what's fascinating in that? Just like fingerprints, no people in the world have exactly the same handwriting. Yes, I repeat, no two people in the world have exactly the same handwriting. It is a fact. Even identical twins write differently. This makes handwriting a powerful tool for identification in forensic investigations. Now, when a forensic document examiner, that is a forensic expert, studies a piece of handwriting, they usually look for two things. The first is class characteristics and the other is individual characteristics. Now, both are important and relevant in forensic science. So, let me give you a brief on class characteristics. So, class characteristics are like the common traits that a group of people might share. For example, people taught in the same school might write in a similar style, like the same slant of letter, size of the letter, or stroke patterns, and etc. There can be different factors. The second is individual characteristics. Now, these are the unique things that make your handwriting yours. It could be unusual loop in the letter G, or the pressure you use while writing, or the spacing between your words. Now, these are the small unconscious habits that develop over time and they are different from each person. So the main purpose of handwriting analysis is to tell the difference between the two, the shared traits and the personal quirks. And once they are done, investigators can use it to detect forgery, verify the authenticity of a document, and also identify the person behind the pen. It is normally not easy to identify, but it can be done through handwriting analysis. Alright then, Now that we have known that handwriting is unique to every individual, now let's talk about the two main categories forensic experts look at, that are class characteristics and the other individual characteristics. So when a question document expert is handed a suspicious signature or a piece of writing, now a piece of writing meaning it can be a document, a will, or any other thing. Now they begin by analyzing these two types of traits, that is class and individual characteristics. Now it can help the forensic expert to figure out who have written it. So let me break it down one by one. First we'll go through the class characteristics. So class characteristics are like the shared traits you will find in the handwriting of a group of people. Now why are they shared? Because most of us were taught in the school the same way. Now for example, if a teacher in your elementary school has taught you to write the letter R in a cursive way, so you will learn to write the letter R in that way only. Generally it is not changed. Also another example, in early education, we all have learned writing from those lined notebooks and need examples in the blackboard. Now that writing style, often called the copybook style, creates a basic structure in our handwriting. So people from the same school or region might write letters in a similar way, like the shape of an S or the slant of the letter T, or the crossbar in the letter T can be small, can be bigger, and many other things. Now here's the key part. Class characteristics are not unique. I repeat, they are not unique. They won't help identify who wrote something, meaning the exact person who wrote the particular document cannot be identified. But still, they are very useful and helpful for initial comparison. They help experts rule out major mismatches early on. Like they can, like they can quantify a particular group of individuals, so to start their investigation. Now moving on to the next characteristics, that is individual characteristics. These are the unique deviations that slowly creep into your handwriting over the time, based on your personality, habits, mood, and how fast you're writing. So individual characteristics include things like your stroke pattern, like is it smooth or shaky, the pressure you apply while writing. The other is your spacing between letters and words. Is it tight or wide? And even how you form certain letters, like make a round A or a pointy one. Now these are the quirks that make your handwriting completely your own. Now these characteristics are very individual. You will have your own personal characteristics that may and are different from any other individual. And in forensic science, this is gold. This is like literally gold. These individual traits are crucial for personal identification, and they help experts say, yes, this person wrote it, or nope, this doesn't match. Now let's dive deep into class characteristics. So class characteristics are those general features in handwriting that are commonly shared by a group of people. As I've already said, they are not unique to one person or any individual. Instead, they are a result of the way we were taught to write. Now, for example, in many schools across India, students are taught using a standard copybook style, which tells how to write each letter, how much to slant it, how to connect strokes. So if 10 people learned writing the same way in the same school, you might notice similarities in the way they form their letters. That's a classic class characteristics. Now these patterns or characteristics are often influenced by factors like your age, your mother tongue, and the region or school you were learned to write. For instance, someone educated in West Bengal might have different stylistic habits compared to someone from Tamil Nadu or Maharashtra. It's obvious. That's because the writing instruction or the scripts used during early education might vary. Now here's the important bit. Class characteristics cannot confirm exactly who wrote it, but they're extremely helpful in the early stages of forensic analysis. This part I've told you, right? Now let me explain you how. Imagine a suspicious note is found at a crime scene. A forensic document examiner takes a look and notices that the handwriting follows a particular style. Let's say that particular style is a right-leaning cursive with a wide spacing. Now, for the suspects, if their handwriting is completely different, maybe left slanted or tightly packed, the examiner might conclude that that suspect is not the right person. We have to look for the right person who committed the crime. So class characteristics help to narrow down the pool of suspects. It is like filtering out who doesn't fit and what doesn't fit. That saves a lot of time and effort in an investigation. Think of that as the first layer of analysis, a basic framework to start with. Now, what are the factors that influence class characteristics? Now, there are two factors that are movement types and pain related factors. And under movement types, there can include finger movement, wrist movement, forearm movement, and shoulder movement. And under pain related factors, it can include pen pressure, pen angle, the 5S characteristics, which I will explain in the later slides, and relative size. These all factors can affect the class characteristics. Okay, then let's take a deeper look at these movement types because they actually tell us a lot about a person's writing skill, their comfort level, and even whether the writing has done naturally or under pressure. Now, there are four main types of movement involved in handwriting, as I've also discussed earlier. The first is finger movement. Now, this is when the pen is controlled mostly by the fingers, and the hand kind of floats in the air without resisting on the surface. The result, you usually find irregular, shaky strokes. Now, the writing may stand upright, very vertical, it, meaning it can be straight, but it lacks the smooth flow or rhythm. Now, this type of movement is often seen in unskilled or very early stage writers, like young children who are just learning to write. The second is wrist movement. Here, the wrist is placed firmly on the writing surface and it's the main guide for the pen. It produces more angular and slanted letters. The spacing between the letters tend to be tighter. It is definitely faster and more controlled than finger movement. Now, this is the most common style among people who have moved beyond the beginner stage but are not using their whole arm. And the third is the movement of the forearm. In this type, the forearm rests lightly on the table and movement comes from the elbow area. It gives you smooth, flowing, and well formed strokes. So, the writers using this movement usually have better speed, control, and natural rhythm in their writing. It is often seen in experienced or trained writers, which is the most ideal movement for good handwriting. And finally, there's shoulder movement. This is used when writing on large surfaces like blackboard or whiteboard. Here, the entire arm moves from the shoulder. The writing is usually big, slow, and a little less controlled because it is harder to be precise when your hand isn't anchored. Now, these movement types can help forensic experts not only understand how a person writes, but it can also get clues about their age, skill level, and even whether a piece of writing has done naturally or it has been faked. Next, then let's move on to pain related factors. Now, these physical aspects may look very small, but they play a huge role in forensic handwriting analysis. You may be thinking, who even notices how I write the letter A, T, R? I mean, that's unusual, right? But for forensic experts, that is very important how you write. So here the first point is pen pressure. Now this simply refers to how much force or weight a person applies while writing. Some people write very lightly and others press hard, almost carving into the page. Based on this, pressure is usually classified as light, medium, or heavy. So if someone is using a nib pen, that is ink pen, greater pressure can actually cause the nib to split slightly, producing wider, darker strokes. Now, this kind of detail can help document examiners identify the pressure was consistent or fake. Then the next is pen angle. Now, you might not think about it when you're writing, but the tilt of the pen affects how clearly and smoothly your strokes appear. A good natural angle is usually around 45 degrees, and if the angle is too steep or too flat, it can cause uneven strokes, blots, or even shakiness. The next are the 5S characteristics. Now there are five core factors that examiners often look during handwriting analysis. So the first S is speed. Is the writing slow and careful, or it is fast and fluid? So these factors are usually analyzed in speed. The next S is skill. In skill, it is usually analyzed: is the writer confident and practiced, or unsteady and inconsistent? Then the next S is slant or slope. Do the letters lean left, right, or stand straight? These are the factors that is analyzed in slant or slope. Then second last is shading. Are the strokes evenly dark, or do they vary in intensity? Then the last is spacing. What's the distance between letters and words? Is it regular or random? Now these all are the five S characteristics that are analyzed together. Then the last point is relative size. This looks at the height and width of the different types of letter, like how tall your H is compared to your A, or how wide is your M. It is normal for this to vary a little depending on how fast someone is writing or what kind of surface they are writing on. But overall consistency in letter size is one of the key things experts rely on for accurate and comparison. Okay, now that we have explored class characteristics, let's turn our attention to something which is more personal and powerful in the world of forensic science, that is mainly handwriting analysis. These individual characteristics. So what are they? Now, individual characteristics are those tiny, unique details in your handwriting that you don't even realize you have those. Now, these are the unconscious deviations from the standard copybook style we all have learned in school. And over the time, through years of repetition and practice, these quirks become part of your natural writing behavior. Think of it this way: even if two people went to the same school, had the same handwriting teacher, and were taught the same cursive method, but the handwriting would still look different. Why? Because of these individual touches that develop naturally. And here's the best part: these individual characteristics are almost impossible to copy exactly. A forger, that is the person who is committing the crime, might copy someone's signature once or twice, but maintaining all these tiny habits over several lines or pages, that's extremely difficult. That's why in forensic science, the presence of multiple consistent individual characteristics is what really helps in positive writer identification. So when an examiner finds enough of these unique traits repeating across different documents, both in the question document and in the known samples, they can confidently say whether it has been written by the same person or not. Now these traits form the core evidence in handwriting cases that can be submitted in the court of law. Now let's look at some of the examples of individual traits. The first is pen lift. This is when a person lifts their pen in the middle of a word or even mid-stroke, in places where most people wouldn't normally lift it. So to understand better, let me give you an example. Imagine someone writing the word hello, Hello, and lifting the pen between the letter E and the letter L. That's unusual, right? But if they do it every time repeatedly, that becomes a personal trait. Experts call this a habitual pen lift, and that's a solid clue in handwriting comparison. The next is hesitations and pauses. This is where you might notice a slight delay or tremor in a stroke, often at the beginning of a word or where the letters connect. It is like the writer paused just a fraction of a second before continuing. These hesitations could be due to nervousness, habit, or even just a particular writing rhythm. Over time, they become consistent patterns and again very hard to forge or to mimic naturally. And the third is retouching and patching. This, this one is quite interesting. Sometimes a writer will go back over a letter to fix or complete a stroke, but they do it without lifting the pen. Okay, let me give you an example. So if someone writes the letter D and feels like the loop is not right, they might loop around again while continuing the stroke. They will not lift the pen up. This is Now this becomes a regular habit and it turns into a reliable individual trait. Then the fourth point is unique letter formations. Now some people may have distinct way of forming certain letters. For example, someone might make their lowercase l with a big loop, or while someone else might write it almost like the letter 1, like the tight loop. And these personal letter shapes are very interesting and telling. And when they appear again and again across different documents, they become a strong identifier. Then the next is flourishes and embellishments. Ever seen someone whose handwriting looks like bit fancy? Now that's because of flourishes, like extra loops, curls, or long tails at the end of this word. Now these flourishes and embellishments are clearly visible if you see calligraphy YouTube videos. They write the letter in a more cursive way. Now these are especially noticeable in capital letters or end of the signatures. Now for example, let's take the letter R. While signing, someone might write the letter R or end it with a long swing. And on the other hand, someone may end the word with a long stroke, straight stroke that ends below the line. Now these stylistic choices often stay consistent, making them excellent markers for authorship. Then the last is shorthand or abbreviated forms. Now this one is quite interesting as well. Some people develop personal shortcuts in their writing. They might merge strokes, skip certain curves, or simplify cursive forms. For example, they might write with a quick E that almost look like a straight line, or combine two letters into one motion. So these shortcuts become personal habits, especially in fast or informal writing, when you are writing a letter or making notes, etc. And when and they are very hard to replicate naturally unless you write exactly like that person. Okay, then let's talk about something really fascinating, that is subconscious quirks. So these are like the little things we do in our handwriting without even realizing it. So these are tiny natural habits that happen while we write and we don't even think about them. But guess what? These quirks are extremely difficult to fake or change, which make them very useful in forensic handwriting analysis. So in forensic basically, every little detail matters and it is very helpful in forensic analysis. So then let's look at some of the common examples. The first is pressure patterns or pressure variations. So have you ever noticed how sometimes you press harder with your pen on certain strokes and lighter on others? Maybe your downward strokes are darker or thicker while your upward strokes are faint or light. Now these pressure patterns become part of your handwriting style and they usually stay consistent throughout your writing no matter what you are writing or where. The next is slope or slant patterns. Another quirk is the angle of your writing. Do your letter lean to the right or maybe they're straight or even slightly to the left? Most people keep the same slant, either straight, to the right or to the left. It becomes second nature, and this pattern shows up in all of the handwriting samples, which help experts match handwriting with more accuracy. Then the third type is start and stop strokes. This is where things get very detailed. The way a person writes or finishes a letter can reveal habits, like starting just a bit above the line or ending a word with a small hook, curve, or flick. For example, some people start their lower cases m with a little curve and end the or maybe end the letter T with a long tail. It may seem small, but these are very subconscious habits. Then the fourth point is signature simplifications and flourishes. This is also one of the interesting part because our signatures are often where our personality really comes out. Some people gradually simplify their signatures over the years, especially if they have to sign frequently. Others go to the opposite way and add stylish strokes or flourishes that may be loops, underlines, dramatic swirls, or extended tails. So, whatever the case is, these features often become deeply ingrained and very consistent, making signatures one of the best clues for identification. So that brings to the end of today's video. But let me give you a brief on what did we learn today. In forensic science, handwriting is not just about pretty penmanship. It is a powerful tool used to uncover the truth behind questioned documents. Now, forensic experts look for two characteristics, that is class characteristics and individual characteristics. So forensic document examiners can connect a piece of writing to a specific person or confidently rule them out by examining these two characteristics. So while class characteristics or traits help to narrow down a certain group or community, but individual characteristics can pinpoint a certain individual based on the previously explained features. So whether it is about exposing a forgery, verifying a signature or solving a case, so it all takes is just a few strokes on paper. So now it's time for the surprise. So here I've added some few questions based on the topic that we have discussed in this video. So you can pause the video, read out the questions, also the options, and write the correct option in the comment section. So that's the end of this video. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more forensic science content. And let me know in the comments what surprised you most about handwriting analysis. So thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.